So I'm Paul, I'm CEO at Huggg. We, many of you, probably most of you or all of you will know what we do. We work with people in the HR role day in, day out. And so we have a good understanding of what it takes to do a really great job in that area. We also know that you're under immense pressure all of the time. What we want to do today is to really dig into, more than anything, dig into culture. So plenty of companies will tell you that, they're a fabulous place to work, but fewer of them will actually tell you what it took to make that happen, including the bits that didn't work as well. That's what today is. We're going to try and make it as tactical as possible, things that you can actually go away and implement. So between Huggg, Octopus Energy and Stowe Family Law, we're 3 organisations that all made it onto the Sunday Times Best Places to Work this year. In our case, it was the first time, but it wasn't the same for the others, or for all of us. But honestly, none of us entered that for a pat on the back. We all did it for our own reasons, and mostly it was around benchmarking ourselves against what everyone else does, where find out where we're at against the wider market. And to understand how we could even improve further. So we're on this learning curve as much as you are, but we've managed to find ourselves on the list for this year. I actually forgot to bring. I was going to bring the little trophy. I have a little trophy to show you, and I've totally taken it. Forgotten to take it to my desk and show you. But it was lovely when that came through. It was a really nice feeling, and actually there was a sense, particularly in our business. I can't speak for Emily or for Louise, but in our business there was a sense that we'd earned it actually, and it wasn't because we'd done one thing or bought one product that meant that we got there. It was a big string of things over a long period of time that actually got us there. Now, at the most fundamental core of it all was the culture of the company. And so you're going to hear us talking a lot about culture today. Honestly, without a great culture, which is the bedrock of what it takes to be on that list and to be a great place to work, you're just going to be missing a key element. And so there isn't there's no vendor on the planet that we can send you to that will fix that. There are a series of things that you need to get right and some things that you need to avoid to be able to build that great culture. And it's very different at very different sizes of business as well. So we've got some very different scales of business here to talk to you today. A little bit of housekeeping. You're all muted and you're off camera. That's deliberate, just to keep it focused. It also means that you can eat your lunch whilst you sat there, and we can do all the work, which is fab. But there is a Q&A box. There's a little symbol in the bottom corner that enables you to click. It's like a little pencil and ruler icon. If you click that and put your questions in, then we'll get to them. Sometimes we'll get to them straight away if it's relevant for the conversation that we're having at the time, and sometimes we will wait till the end. So they won't be forgotten. They'll just be dealt with in the right place. We want this to be a really relaxed conversation, so the more you bring, the better it gets. Being talked at is never fun. Being part of the conversation is always a lot more fun, and it will certainly be more fun for us if that's the case. Okay, I've got 3 brilliant people here who protect culture for a living, so let's stop talking now on my behalf. I'll just guide you through the rest of it, and let's introduce themselves. Alice, I'm going to pick on you purely alphabetically to kick us off.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. I'm Alice, and I've been part of the Huggg journey since day one, over 10 years ago. So for us, getting the employee experience right just from the get-go, the moment someone joins, all the way through to growing in the company and thriving with us is just the paramount, and has been for a very long time, even when there was just the 2 of us at one stage, just Paul and I. Sometimes it's just the smallest touches that have meant the most, and when we do feedback on our onboarding, etc., we do get mentioned, which I'll obviously probably come on to at some point during this conversation, but that does mean a lot. So for us, like Paul said, being recognised as one of the UK's best places to work reflects years and years of kind of intentional people first decisions, especially in our perks and benefits and just general day-to-day. So we're heavily invested in our people, and I think that shows. And so we've tried to treat everybody fairly. regardless of tenure or role, and that's now reflected in this wonderful accreditation. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. That's me.
Thanks, Alice. Emily, why don't you go next? Introduce yourself.
Thanks. I mean, luckily you told us it was going to be alphabetical, so I'm prepared. Great to hear from Alice. So my name's Emily. I work at Octopus Energy and have done for almost 5 years now. So Octopus is, known for its exceptional customer obsession and service, and to be known for its great employee experience as well is so special, and something that you could have literally had any of our Octopus employees here to talk about it, because having great culture, having empowerment and employee engagement is every single person's role and responsibility within Octopus. We don't have a dedicated team. We famously don't have an HR team, because we really push that onto our leaders and all of our team members, which is incredible. I think the way that we've done it, and I know that we'll go into it even more, but as Alice said, having that freedom and responsibility for our teams to make decisions, look after our customers and act in the way that we want that to be the culture is so paramount, and you see it everywhere. You walk into an Octopus office, you feel it. You talk to one of our engineers, you feel it. Like, it's everywhere and it's contagious. It's gorgeous. And I think by having the customer in the heart of every single decision that we make and every single thing that we talk about, it's always there. And so we know that if you have happy teams, and I'll die on this hill, then you will have happy customers, because you are empowered, you feel like you can make those decisions, and that you can really look after the customer. So yes, I'm very pleased to be here and happy to talk about it.
Thanks, Emily. And that's the service profit chain in action. Happy team equals happy customer equals higher revenues, higher market cap, etc. Richard Branson was, yeah, exactly. Richard, yes, it should be CFO friendly, but you've got to buy into it in the first place. Louise, go for it.
Hi, so I'm Louise. I'm head of culture and communications for Stowe Family Law. So we're the UK's largest specialist family law firm. We've been growing over I've been there just over 5 years, and we've been growing in that time, continuing to grow, which is really exciting. And I think one of the things we've been really passionate about as we've grown is to maintain the culture that we started with. As we've grown, we've got more offices, more people, different kind of working dynamic, but it's something that we're really proud of, that we continue to kind of build that culture. And it was our first time entering Sunday Times, and we were very happy to make the list. So we're really excited to join this conversation, and we're proud customers of Huggg as well. I know we're not selling Huggg today, but it is a huge part of it is a huge part of what we do. Not obviously, we'll talk about this later. Lots of elements make up a great culture, like Emily and Alice have said, but I think bringing in Huggg has made a big difference to us as well. So.
Thanks, Louise. I really appreciate it. So just to give people a sense on the call about the relative scale of the organisations, Huggg is 25 people. Emily, you're materially north of that, and I think Louise, you're somewhere in the middle. Emily, how large is the organisation now?
Octopus Energy is global now, and I think it's like over 10,000 employees. So yeah, like for the Octopus family, it's humongous. So yeah.
and Louise Stowe, yeah, just a little bit bigger. And Louise, Stowe Family Law is in the hundreds.
Just 400, just over the 400 mark. Yeah. Past, yeah.
Got it. So we've got different organisations at different levels here. I'm going to ask a question about that though. First, Emily. I guess Emily, you've been through the most extreme version of like growing. Culture breaks horrendously when companies grow. What has that looked like for you, and how have you managed to, you've obviously managed to maintain a very high level. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think we've probably all worked at a company, I know that I have, who's gone through massive growth, and it almost changes overnight. There's the red tape, there's the bureaucracy of it all, and it feels horrific. Octopus has fiercely defended and protected the great culture that we have, and actually it hasn't been something that has needed to be particularly fought at all, because everyone that joins Octopus joins for the mission that we're on, and everyone knows about the big green den, and everyone is driving towards that, and they join for the culture. So people want that. People want community. They want to grow. They want to find their home, and Octopus is very clear to every single person that comes in, whether you're a leader, an engineer, somebody in the field, or in an office, no matter who you are, that actually our customer is in the center of it all. And if something feels, Greg, our CEO, will often say, like, if something feels like you're having to ask your manager, their manager, and then their manager, or you're having to jump over all of these hurdles to fix something or to deliver for a customer, like, absolutely not. You should be able to act and take responsibility for that. We don't want people to act recklessly, obviously, but to have the autonomy and the freedom to be able to do the right thing, I think, makes people show up and makes people do the right thing over and over again. And so it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We do, because of the scale of it all, I think one of the challenges is the fact that when you have a team of 25 or even 100, you can know 100 people's names. You can know that many people, but actually you get to the thousands, and obviously the 10,000 is our global number. If you get into that thousands or multiple sites, it's really easy to lose that connection. And so creating that, we use Slack and we love it because you can have you can have community and connection really, really easily, and you see it pop up all the time. But also, internal mobility and people being able to explore their career and that to be really open is something that means that people stay within Octopus, and we have a high internal mobility rate, and we ask feedback and have an open forum all the time. You can talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Our leaders are on the floor. We don't have loads of meeting rooms or anything like that. Conversations happen everywhere, and it's glorious, to be honest.
Got it. And so, Emily, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question just to try and take it into like a really tactical level. I'm going to ask you the question, and then I'm going to go to Louise and ask her a question first to give you some time to think about it. Okay. And this is partly to prove that we have not set these questions. This is a free-flowing conversation, and I've not set these questions in advance. I want to get your honest reactions to them. So the question would be, in an organization with thousands of people, there'll be some people on the call here that are in a similar situation. I've been in that situation before from a banking background. You can't do anything usually in those organizations without 25 layers of sign off and somebody saying no in one of those 25 layers. So what sorts of practical things do you actually, is there like a practical concrete example that you can think of where you actually kind of make that work? What is one thing that you do to remove those blockers? But I'm going to give you some time to think about that because I knew it was a tricky one. Louise, I'm going to ask you a question first before I come back to Emily, and then we'll come on to Alice. So Louise, you have a situation with Stowe where I think you have lots of offices, don't you, all around the country?
Yeah.
So you don't have large concentrations of people in one place. You have concentrations of people in lots of different places. And then Alice, I'm going to come and ask you about fully remote in a moment because that's how we operate. So Louise, in that situation, how do you make sure that there's like a consistency of how you are and how you act amongst those offices?
I think it's something we've worked really hard to do. I think as we've grown, we've kind of restructured the teams to create local teams, and it's about delivering not just a consistent experience for our colleagues, but also for the clients that we serve. We want somebody that comes to Stowe to feel like they're getting the same service wherever they go. And I think again that comes back to happy people make happy clients. I think we treat our people well, and I think we've worked really hard on our local leadership. We've worked with them. We've brought people in at kind of a team lead type level, which is quite unusual in family law, but it's something that works for us, the way that we're set up. And I think our values. I know not everybody's a huge fan of values, but ours have been pretty consistent over the last, we did a refresh, but we didn't change them. We just kind of tweaked the language to make sure it was inclusive and relevant, but we use them through everything we do. So we use them, we've got an intranet site, we use that, really well used. People shout each other out and use the values to talk about those. We built it into the way that we work, the way we recognize our people. Even our bonus scheme talks about, you know, kind of living our values and that kind of thing. So it's not just words on a wall, it's very much part of who we are, and it's lived through everything that we do. So I think having those as a consistent really helps to maintain that consistency across the offices.
Got it. I'm going to jump on one thing that you said there, which is actually a common bugbear for people, which is you talked about an intranet and shout outs, and people actually use it. What we hear quite a lot from our clients is that people almost never use those things consistently, or you get a cluster of people that do. Do you get genuine engagement with those systems?
Yeah, we do. We do. It's something that our teams are really good at, actually. They like to do it quite regularly, and it goes from, you know, there was one on yesterday from a senior lawyer thanking a junior lawyer who supported them through a recent case, to people thanking the IT team for coming out or ringing them up to fix the laptop, to, you know, the post room for sorting out a bundle last minute, for, you know, kind of, it's very much not just my friend here is great, it's also this person on the other side of the country. It could be, you know, a London team thanking the post room up in Leeds for pulling something out the bag for them last minute. So yeah, they do really. And we recently had our all colleague event, and we do an awards, and it's peer-to-peer nominated. We had, like, can't remember now, I should have checked, 400, 500 nominations from 400, you know, lots of nominations. It's very hard to judge those awards, and it's wonderful to see people just recognizing their peers. So it's certainly a huge part of what we do.
Great, got it. And we've had a good question come in. You actually prodded on this, Louise, at the time. You said, I know not everybody likes values, that people can, you know, treat them as kind of platitudes. We've had a question in that is very relevant here, which is, you've got values and you've obviously been able to apply them in practice. Can you give some examples of how you've been able to actually apply, maybe pick out a value or two, and how you've actually been able to apply that in practice? If you want some thinking time, I can go back to Emily for the previous one.
Yeah, go back to Emily. I'll just make sure I'll pick out a good one. Yeah.
Got it. Emily.
Giving us homework on the call.
I know. I should have been a teacher. So Emily, I'd asked you about, you know, you've got a growing company, you've got a large company, but you actually somehow managed to get things done, or managed to remove the blockers. What does that look like?
Yeah, I've got an example, which I'm excited to tell you about. So we do, I mean, Octopus does work at breakneck speed. You know, we don't mind it getting a bit messy either, as long as, you know, you're doing the right thing and the customer's in the heart of it, right? An example of this, of actually making change in a large organization, and making it quickly, you know, you talk about having 25 sign-offs, like it literally stops change from happening, and everyone forgets what the purpose is, right?
Yeah.
So we at Octopus, we also provide low carbon tech. So whether you take your boiler out and then get a heat pump, or have solar panels on your roof, or if you have an electric vehicle, or have a charger, all of that lovely stuff. This is, you know, some of this is like brand new technology or emerging technology, which is incredible. But as we were growing that part of the business, because it was so new to us and new to our customers, we actually, something very non-Octopus, just as we kind of scaled it, was that we had specialized teams. So we had a solar team, we had a heat pump team, and we had an EV charger team. It's really unlike us, because actually, and this was the change that we went through, because if you called Paul and you were like, I'm ready to electrify my home, you should be able to speak to one person that can talk to you about a heat pump and a solar panel and everything, right? So while we were building that part of the business, we separated it out just so that there was loads of learnings and we could get real expertise in that. Just last year, we had scaled that side of the business, and we were like, fantastic. Now is the time to go back to our operating model, which is to have hyper skilled teams, so that when you call in, you can speak to anybody about anything. And it's the best for you as a customer, and our teams have loads of knowledge, feel empowered, can make decisions. To do that with thousands of people, including our field teams, so this impacted our field teams as well, who are literally there doing all of these different types of jobs. There is a strategy that you have to take. You can't just change it. You've got to take people on that journey, and you've got to make it feel comfortable. Is ambitious, but at least that they understand like why we're doing it, right? Change is never comfortable. And so there's a couple of principles that we have. The first is that faster is actually safer. You know, you think about riding your bike, where you learn how to ride your bike. This is a literally example for me, learning how to ride a bike slowly on the grass is really hard, and I just fell off all the time. You're on the tarmac, you know, you're on the street and you go for it and the speed is there, you're safer. It's technically scarier and riskier, but it is actually safer. And so one of our principles is faster, safer. And so, you know, to get that speed, you have to start small. So starting with small empowered groups and almost like spread it out to the rest of the country, which is exactly what we did. Start with our South team, hyper skilled them, really close feedback loop, and, you know, loads of understanding, loads of support. But that feedback loop has got to be really tight and really fluid. This doesn't work. This does work. This is my top tip on how to do this. Like, how can we create a community through this learning and discomfort, which is exactly what we did. And then as you spread that out across the country, and we did this within, I think it was even less than 6 months, which is bonkers. When we did this, we then have really empowered, passionate, and people that can actually do it, showing everyone and telling everyone else that this is how you do it. That peer-to-peer endorsement and confidence meant that, you know, when we then kind of rolled it out and it spread across the country, we had engineers talking about it, electricians talking about it, salespeople talking about it, to say, I've been through this journey and this is my learnings and this is what I do. You know,
so you picked out like a subset of people to teach it to get rid of the disbelief that it was possible with everybody else, in effect. Yeah,
I mean, you're more likely to believe your mate who sits next to you or somebody that you have known for years than, you know, as much as we want to, a senior leader, because that person does your job. And so if they go, it's okay, I've done this too, this is actually good, this is interesting, this is fun, you know, I'm going to believe that more because that's my peer. It's just human nature, right?
Got it. And then there's actually another learning there, which is that people who do the same role but otherwise wouldn't, the people who do the same role but in completely different regions should be able to talk to one another. That's actually not the case in lots of organizations. Yeah. And so that's another practical example of something that you obviously do very well. Is that all done through a series of Slack channels, or do you run on something different comms wise?
No, I mean, it's mainly on Slack. So we do have to, you know, keep an eye on Slack, because you have people, you don't want to create that separation, right? And so sometimes there's a Slack call and we go, hey, this is really isolated, or this is siloed. This is where we're going to kill this channel. This is where you're going to go, so that people are connected. Whether you're in Scotland or in Plymouth, you should be able to talk to each other, and we encourage that. But we also, like, we know that our engineers, specifically in our other field team members, they are speaking to customers in their homes every single day. And so they're not on their phone. And so we do actually do, just for our field teams, an email roundup as well. So we have an updates channel for any update that impacts our field team. They have their team channels, that's very free. But then we do have a email that rounds it up, just because they are, you know, it can get quite loud and they're so busy and they're right there with the customer. We want to take away that.
So when you've got a mixture of kind of desk-based workers and field-based workers, you take your desk-based workers' communications and sum those up so that they're not excluded from them, so you don't end up with a kind of feeling of a white-collar, blue-collar divide inside of the organization.
Absolutely. And also, like, we have for our field team, we have like family breakfast, and we have these like meetings, and family breakfast is an online meeting like this, where you can come in, we give updates, we have people come in and talk from the team, from customers and everything like that, including, the office-based teams. Everyone should know everything, because if a customer is speaking to somebody in Brighton, for example, in the office, then the engineer that's in that customer's home should know what's being said. It's how you get cross great relationships as well. So when something goes wrong, or if something goes right, then you can talk about it really easily because you know who they are. So that cross learning as well is so crucial.
Got it. So you're getting the customer information back as well. There's one practical thought around that. We've adopted a lot of AI, and so if you've got chatter going on in one group, it is actually quite straightforward to set up an agentic workflow that runs every day. You can do this inside of any of the major LLMs, where you ask it on a daily basis to actually digest the content for a particular set of channels or whatever, create a summary of it, and then blast it out to an audience, or at least create the draft and blast it out to an audience on a different channel. It's actually quite straightforward to do that with anybody who's got any sort of reasonably low advanced sort of level of AI knowledge. Louise, I'm going to come back to you now. Culture, values. Firstly, I'll ask a question. Would the people in the organization be able to name the values, or what proportion of people in the organization would be able to even name them?
I would hope most of them. I really would. Like I say, we talk about them every time we have an all hands. They're woven into the bonus scheme. They're woven into everything we do. So yes, I would hope. If somebody's not, they're not engaged at all. So yes, they're in the minority for sure. And
how do you get them to actually apply, or rather, what examples are there of people applying those values in practice?
Yeah, so one of ours is we achieve together. We're better with each other than on our own, which we all like and we use a lot. And in the last few years, we've really embraced that one and made changes structurally to make that more realistic. So things like we introduced team working. So lawyers are now team working files with colleagues. It means the client gets better support. So if someone's off sick or on holiday, whatever, but also it supports the well-being of our lawyers, because they're not coming back from holiday to reams of stuff. They're not feeling like they need to take their phones on holiday. So we actually had to make some adjustments in our system for that to work, so that people could access each other's files. But that's what we've done, and it's working really well. We've had people share things on LinkedIn, like, thanks to my team, I've been able to totally switch off on holiday and things like that. And then
so you've been able to, so that value is working together. The actual practical example of that is you've been able to create clusters of information pools, like been able to create teams that are able to access other people's information, so that they're not just on holiday and been the only person who knows ABC.
They're not coming back to 500 emails from multiple clients who are all waiting for things when they get back. So, and then also we made adjustments to the bonus scheme. So the bonus scheme, we've got fantastic lawyers, very much still billable hours targets, etc., to a certain extent, although we're trying our best to move away from that. But we made an adjustment to include kind of team targets within that. So how have the team performed? How many great client reviews have your team got? So we're very much moving towards that whole, again, we're in it together, rather than people feeling like it's all on their shoulders and it's siloed. It's very much, and it ties back into that working together, piece as well. So we've made some shifts really in terms of how we work and how we recognize our people to support that value of working together.
Got it. Okay. And Alice, I'm going to come to you in a second to ask you about how we figure out how to have a cohesive culture as a fully remote team. But before that, I just have to press Louise on, you get people to use an intranet, and people just can't get people to use intranets. How do you actually do that?
So it's, first of all, it's automatically added when people open their work laptop, if they open Outlook, it's there. So we're kind of in there. We put everything in there. So we've got a policy storage place for all our policies. But one of the biggest draws, not everybody's on there all the time. I'm not going to pretend, you know, but we have a huge amount of people who are on there regularly. We share news, we share information, and we create a real two-way. So like I say, some of it's fun. It might, you know, we've just started a pets or a kind of animals channel and things like that. So people, if they just want to share things, and I think a craft one for people who want to just share what they're doing in their spare time. So, you know, creating that kind of community when you work, we call it dynamically. I'd say it's hybrid, but there's no expectations on people. It's truly flexible, but it does mean that some people might not see the same person for quite a lot of time. So creating this online community just helps to keep that feel of we're a great place to work kind of alive, I think. So
got it. So even though you're in different offices, you've got this one place that feels like it's the same place that people go to talk about football, cooking, whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it. So you make it's a little bit like a water cooler.
Yeah, definitely. We try. I mean, it does share. We do share, you know, our CEO will share an update video and things like that. But we'll share, you know, news and information. But yeah, it's quite social as well. It's nice.
Got it. Okay. And then, so Alice, we have a similar issue here at Huggg. Everyone's remote. I mean, it's great. We can sit in very hot apartments in London and things like that when it's fully remote and not in air-conditioned offices. So this is one of those weeks where fully remote doesn't work very well, but fully remote most of the time, it's an absolute pleasure for us to have, and people really cite it as one of the things that attracted them to come in and working with Huggg, is just that we offer that flexibility, but it does come with its downsides. We have to work harder to maintain a culture. Can you unlock a little bit about how we do that here?
So over the years, it's kind of ebbed and flowed, but we make sure that we meet up every other month as a full team. And the expectation is that everybody does come, aside from maybe like an unforeseen circumstance or something. So we make sure we do that quarterly, if not by monthly. And sometimes that feels like, you know, we're spread all over the country now. We used to actually just have a Bristol office and a London office. And then obviously during COVID, I'm surprised that word hasn't come up yet in this conversation. During COVID, obviously fully remote. And then we were able to expand our talent pool all over the country. And that has been brilliant. So we've obviously got someone in Scotland, somebody in another country. You know, it's been really helpful for us. But what is also great is saying basically the expectation is that you come to what we call group hugs, and we get together and we make sure we really maximize that time. We always include a social aspect. It's not like, it's actually quite rarely like just go to the pub. We try and make sure we have an activity so it's inclusive for those who don't drink. Obviously you can still go to the pub and not drink, but we just make sure that we change it up every time. We usually include an activity that's social. Sometimes we have an overnight and do it for 2 days, but that time face to face is really, really valuable to us. Because, for instance, there are some people on the team that I don't interact with as much as others, and I'm sure that's felt across the team. So we also do a peer-to-peer kind of allocation for each team member, so they don't have to put their own hand in their pocket to treat their team to something. And even me, who's been in it for over 10 years, like someone in the dev team sent me one the other day, which I was really not expecting, and it still gives you that warm, fuzzy kind of like, oh, wow, that was nice feeling, even though I've been embedded in it for 10 years. So yeah, I would say that peer-to-peer and making the time to meet up face-to-face if you are fully remote. I know we seem like a very, very, very small team, but it is amazing how quickly alignment fades when you are across loads of different locations. So yeah, we make that time.
Can I add something to that? I think what you've answered there is beautifully put, Alice, to be honest. I also think that the growing from a small team, you know, to go from like 12 to 25, speak to other companies that I know really well, that's huge. And the risk of losing or the alignment for great culture and expectations, I actually think that growth is where the biggest risk is. Because if your newer team members almost like outnumber the people that have been there for 10 years, the majority starts to wane. I would argue that it's potentially easier for to grow a headcount from, you know, 1,000 to 1,100, technically the number is higher, but 100 people aren't going to touch 1,000 OGs, right? Whereas actually to double your headcount and to have double the amount of people come in that, you know, may not be as aligned, may not be as passionate, may not be as dedicated to the culture, I think that that's where the risk is, and the focus needs to be honest.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. And we've got quite a few things. One of the biggest things that broke down the lines has been communications. And so we've found in the past that whenever essentially, as soon as people weren't line managed by the founder or a founder, then they're one step removed from the people who are creating the culture and are creating have the biggest impact on where the business's direction is, and know everything. They know everything, so they can give all of the information. And so as soon as the further somebody is away from that center of like knowledge and are detached from the context of the company, the worse it gets. So we definitely found that down the line. And Emily, you put it really well there. You need to get people. You have your OGs in the company, you have your passionate people in the company, and you have to get people as close to them as possible to be able to keep the culture as bonded as possible. They're kind of nuclei around the company that have their own energy, and they need to be attached to, I would say. We've got another question coming in just whilst we were here. Warning signs that culture isn't healthy. So Emily, Louise, you will have seen this in a growing organization, and Alice, we've definitely had this in the past as well, where our culture has been less healthy than it is now. Just come to each of you. What has been the warning sign? Just a quick answer from each of you. What has been the warning sign that a culture isn't healthy to you? I'll go with Louise first, just based on the order of my screen.
I think we listen to our people a lot, so we do regular pulse check-in surveys, as well as obviously our managers being on the ground. But I think the nature of the way we work, listening to people and reacting to that quickly, is been one of the key things that we've done. We had a spell where it was very clear that our lawyer well-being they were struggling with workload and feeling the pressure. So we stepped in quite quickly, looked at what we could take away from them and that kind of thing. So it was actioned, and I think listening and reacting is probably the way that we're spotting those things happening now.
Got it. So there's a series of actual proactive check-ins that you would use to try to test that. Emily?
I think to add to that as well, and I will give another example, but a real signal that your culture is waning is when people stop telling you that feedback, response rate, participation. That should be one of your biggest red flags, because that means that people don't feel psychologically safe, or don't feel like that they can speak up, which I think is a real signal for your culture being poor. So that's one of the ones that I was going to say. So Louise has taken that from me, but that is also fine. I also do think that slow decisions or low ownership, we should be able to make really quick decisions because you're connected to the customer and the teams, and so the answers are clear, so you can make decisions really quickly because that communication is so there. And then the low ownership, if you've got slanty shoulders or a blame game, that needs to be that is a massive red flag. Why do people not feel like they can take ownership for a problem, or say, one of the things that you won't hear in Octopus is that's not my job, unless it's a finance thing. I can't do finance, right? But anything else, everyone should be able to do anything or be able to help somebody. It should never be that's not my job, or I can't help you. There's always an answer, right?
Yeah. You definitely don't want that situation. Alice, we've had situations in the past where our culture's been less healthy than it is now. How did that show up? How did we know that was happening at the time? felt obvious, but there must have been something that showed up.
Yeah, good question. I remember there just being a time where it felt like people had sort of like feelings that they perhaps weren't sharing in the most healthy way. And maybe you'd hear an odd comment like on group calls and things, and you'd be thinking, oh, wow, that's clearly stemming from somewhere. So it's not always as well. You can't always rely on people to come to you. Like some people will love to come to their line managers and tell you this person or this function isn't working. But some people do just quietly sort of stew on it a little bit, and obviously remotely, then how on earth can you possibly expect to know? So that has been a challenge in the past. I don't think it's necessarily because of being remote. In fact, there have been times before we were fully remote where that still happened. I guess like if we're leading by example and trying to be open and honest and constructive, then you'd hope that if you're aligning that with the people leaders even in a team of 25 or 12 or however many, if you're sort of aligning at the top and leading by example, then you'd like to think it would filter down. You obviously can't, that can't work for everyone, but I feel like that has been something that, like you say, the communication and making sure that especially the people leaders are on the same page and acting in the same way really does help kind of give
definitely. I always remember as well that one practical thing that we've done to try to weed this out is that I think it's quite dangerous to call yourselves a family as a business, because when you're a family, you basically excuse everybody's failings as a family because you're the last stop, you're the backstop for everything that they can do wrong. I think a sports team is a better analogy, but a sports team can be really, really performant and also feel a little bit familial at the same time because they're all in it together. They're all pointed in the same direction. Where we've found problems in the past, it's where people have felt like they're not pulling in the same direction, or they're starting to get maybe even just aggy with other people or not very nice to the people around them. And we just we're very hot at Huggg on not hiring someone that we think is just gonna not be nice to be around. It doesn't matter how amazing or talented they are. If they're not going to be very nice to be around, it's just going to dent the atmosphere for everybody else. So there's one practical thing that we do is we just try to, we actually call them a fun sponge. We won't hire a fun sponge. It's one of our sort of red lines on the hiring side. I'm going to just switch now to, there's another question in here. We will get to that. I'm just going to switch now to talk really tactical about things that you've done for your teams that have been the best received and maybe the worst received, if there's anything like that. But I'm going to come, Alice, I'll come to you first, and we'll do Louise and Emily. What is the initiative, the removal of a block, whatever it has been? It could have been something you bought, something you instigated, or just something you changed, that has been the best received single thing that you've done for your teams. Alice first.
That is a really interesting one. I think one of them, I'm going to use an example that I don't think the other ladies will have, so that they're not like, dang, I said something that you wanted.
That's my whole strategy. What are you doing to me?
Well, like for us, for instance, one of our benefits we have is that you can temporarily work abroad for Huggg. So you can carry on what you're doing, your day-to-day job. You obviously have to bear in mind the realities of time differences and whether that actually works for the rest of your department. It's housekeeping apart. It has allowed people on the team who are like native to another country, but they live in the UK. But like, for instance, there's someone on our team who is from Turkey. So he goes back regularly and works, but also gets to spend time with his family, and it doesn't eat always into his annual leave. And I feel like one of that initiative, whilst, for instance, I don't use that initiative because currently my circumstances don't allow for it, just personally, but over half the team do use this either to explore a country more than they otherwise would be able to on annual leave, or like I say, to see friends and family for short periods of time. Obviously there are tax restrictions and loads of things to read up on about that if that's something that anybody would consider offering to their own team. But I feel like that has really is really valuable to our team members, just to know it's there for those who haven't used it, but for the people who use it regularly, I know that they really, really appreciate it. So I would say that's one of the ones that's had the most impact on our team members. And I would probably argue that they would rather have this benefit, I guess you could call it, or this perk of the job, rather than maybe a salary bump elsewhere or something. Like, I feel like this is something that you can't really swap out for monetary value, and it has gone down really
very
well.
difficult. It's very difficult to swap that particular one out. That is a great example. Louise.
Oh, see, my answer, you're not going to like my answer, but my answer, I think Emily and I had this conversation when we caught up a few weeks ago. I don't think there is one thing. I think because one thing might not suit everybody. I think, you know, we try really hard to provide, you know, I don't want to say a suite of benefits, that's a technical, but, you know, kind of a range of perks, of things, of activities that might, so like you say, like, you know, some people it won't appeal to them or it might not impact them, but they can still see the value of it. But then we make sure that we offer something else that hopefully will support that person. So I think it's, you know, we've added in quite a few things, and this kind of touches on the other part of the question, which is what perhaps hasn't worked. And I think we've introduced a couple of things. So we introduced a paid volunteering leave day for everybody to take, and also the option for people to swap bank holidays for other religious or kind of that kind of thing. Neither of those have been massively used yet. I mean, we've had a few people go off and do volunteering things, which is great. I think the nature of the work that our people do, they are hugely passionate about serving their clients. And, you know, kind of, I think the thought of taking a day off or an afternoon off. So we've flexed that so that they can now do it in hours or half days. So if somebody just wanted to support a call helpline, for example, kind of 1 hour or something like that. So we've adjusted to try and work that with people. But yes, I think there are things that you introduce with all the best of intentions, but the reality of people's working day, you might need to take a few steps back and think, actually, do we need to do a bit more here for this benefit to really have the benefit? But I mean, Huggg, again, I know I shouldn't be, but I'm selling Huggg because they love it. Like we just over a year ago, we gave it to our manager. So we started off using it as a central for the people team, but our managers now have their pots. They love, I mean, the amount of time, can you top up my Huggg pot, please, Lou? Like, you know, like they really love it. And it's just it's those little ways to instant thank yous. I think, you know, just in the moment, or if you know someone's had a really tough day, just sending them a little something to say, I see you, I hear you, here you go, you know, we recognize you. I think that has had a big impact as well. So it's the small things and the big things combination.
That's great.
I don't think there's one or two because, yeah,
no, that's great. And I love the swapping bank holidays for other religious holidays. Can your HR system even support that, or is that a bit of an
I hope so. It might be a bit of an administrative nightmare, but I think it's something we were willing to do because we felt it was the right, you know, and the right thing to do. But like I say, I mean, it has its drawbacks as well. So some people are like, well, if I work Easter Monday, for example, my kids are off school because everything's shut. So, you know, it's hard. It's not that straightforward, but it's there as an option if people would like it. Yes. So we're still kind of working through how to allow people to maximize that, I guess. But
got it. And Emily, can you put your finger on a particular initiative or something like that your teams have been particularly happy with?
Yes, I was going to ask for like and the question to be asked again, because I didn't think we were just talking about perks or like those things.
No, doesn't need to be perks. In fact, ours wasn't a perk. It wasn't something we pay for. It's just something we're happy to be flexible around.
Yeah, no, I mean that is fantastic as well. I actually think the thing that I think that people are missing, and this isn't just people within Octopus, I think it's people, you know, across the world really, is community. You know, you're seeing it, you know, we're all on social media all the time, the most amount of our time ever in history, and actually people feel more disconnected than ever. And so creating community that feels, and that is genuine and is just for fun, I think is where, I genuinely think that that's where the magic happens. I think that your intranet, Louise, it sounds fantastic. And some of the best initiatives that we have done, and they're built by the team as well, and you see it, the pop-up one came up just a minute ago because June's finished and June is Pride Month. And so there was a post in our LGBTQIA+ channel about Pride Month might be over, but we still celebrate Pride every day. We're doing this initiative to get people to share their Pride outfits and things like that. Love it. Another one is, and one of my favorites is, we actually do this every January. We've done it for the last 3 years, which is jumping into January. January is hard. It's, you know, people are poor, people are hungover, and it's hard to get back into work after having like 2 weeks off. And so actually we have a jumping into January for anyone across the whole of Octopus can join. We share it in all of the team channels to just be like, do you want to get involved? And it's anything, whether it's not just fitness, it can be food, it can be people going dry January, people trying to stop smoking, like people just trying to be more connected. And actually you see people doing this all the time, and it's such a wholesome channel, and it just drives itself. Like there's very little intervention that is needed. People understand, like it's interesting to understand what's expected of them and what they can post in here. But it is one of the most wholesome things that we do, because you have people going, hey, I'm doing the couch to 5K, for example, or I've just gone 7 days without drinking and I've never done that before. You know, things like that. Like that's where you actually get community. It's how do you create a water cooler feeling when you are remote? And it is by having the conversations and feeling valued and seen for who you are, not what you're doing for the company. And it's something that I think it's one of the most beautiful things that you can do for your teams, no matter the size, and also not to police it, like, you know, to just enjoy it, because people are kind, people want to have community. And yeah, I love it. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, it sounds like that really works. And the studies show that people are very unlikely to leave a lot of things have to go wrong cumulatively for people to leave colleagues that they really enjoy working with.
Yes.
People find it very difficult to leave teams that they enjoy being around and people they enjoy being around. They find it very easy to leave a terrible boss or, you know, being underpaid. But actually connecting people to the people around them can be very inexpensive or even free, and it can be the most solid connective tissue retention thing that you can actually do. So that's really great to hear. Okay, so it sounds like that, you know, there isn't one thing. And actually it was great that in fact none of you mentioned salary. None of you said we bumped everyone's salary by 5%. None of you said that we put in this perks platform and it meant that people could get shopping discounts, or where, you know, it's not that. It's almost never a vendor. It's like a feeling. It's something that you can do that drives the culture. Again, that word coming back. We did have a question around culture that I didn't ask at the time, but I'm going to ask it now. When you have a growing company, your culture will inevitably change. Is that a bad thing, or do you need to try and keep it? You know, do you need to try and set it in stone and then maintain that culture, or do you let it evolve? Is it better to let it evolve?
I think this is based on what I was talking about. I'll happily answer this. Change is inevitable, right? The only thing that is consistent and that never changes is that change happens. And actually you see it in everything. And so I think that culture and you know, that essence of a company, it is always going to shift, and especially as you grow. And I think as long as you've got non-negotiables at Octopus, it is we are obsessed with our customers. We have high in freedom and responsibility, and we have people-led leaders. You know, as long as those three things are always there, then that's fine. We talk about having the different offices. You could go into our Coventry office. It feels different to Brighton, but everyone knows that the expectation for the customer and the etiquette and the kindness is still there, but it has a different vibe. Just like with Manchester, it has a different vibe. And that's the beauty of people. One of the things that our CEO, Greg Jackson, talks about all the time is the fact that you don't leave your personality at the door at Octopus. We are built through the dry stone wall, which is that you can be all of these different shapes and sizes, but a dry stone wall is strong and it's hardy, it's gorgeous as well, and it will, you know, it will, what is the word? Something the weather, feather the weather? No, what is it? Where you, it's not going to fall over. I can't think of what
it manages to stay put regardless of what weather's
I
doing.
cannot think of it.
I guess you'd be weathering the weather, wouldn't you? But that doesn't seem right. So
Oh,
let's just move on.
It sounds like I've had too many teams. But I think that's it,
Got it.
right? Like I think the danger of having that everyone has to be the same, every team has to be the same, every office has to be the same, is that you then go, actually, I want to create a brick wall that is made of all the same bricks, and that also kills culture. Yeah,
got it. Okay, so we've only got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to ask you each a question. I'm going to ask you to answer it inside of 30 seconds or less, and we're going to go with Louise, then Alice, then Emily. So Louise, you're first. If you could get every leader to do one thing differently, what would it be?
Listen, I guess.
Listen
to the people. Yeah.
Brilliant answer. Alice, one low-cost move. So you've got less than 100 quid of budget, or it's completely or nothing at all, no budget at all. What is the one thing that you would instigate if you don't have it in your organization now, but you're able to instigate it? What is one thing that you would instigate?
I think community can be achieved really easily without budget. I feel like to caveat that, I don't think anyone wants to be forced to do things. Like, forced fun is not fun, obviously, at work. It kind of needs to happen organically, but I feel like it's like even just little things, which is traditional, but obviously we have the sweepstake going for the World Cup at the moment. Little things like that has just allowed people to obviously interact about something that's going on in pop culture, just like having that kind of place to talk about something. I know there's pockets of people in our relatively small team who have similar interests, and I just think that even if you're not meeting up with that person, not meeting up with that person out, but having the chat together, interests. So with my lo-fi,
the water cooler is coming up quite a lot, isn't it, today? Emily, then last one. If you've got a leader not making culture a priority, what would you tell them? What are they going to lose?
I mean, I think you lose everything if you haven't got the culture right. I think when speaking to leaders who aren't focusing on that, it's about what do you want to achieve? You know, what is driving you as a leader? And then bringing that back to, if you have great culture and you have great buy-in, you are going to achieve that. Having great culture and having engaged teams makes your business better. It makes it smoother, slicker, more profitable, more productive. And so that's what I would say. Like, what are your goals? This is the answer, no matter what their answer is.
Got it. And if you look after your teams, they will look after your customers, and your customers definitely look after your profits, your turnover, your market cap, and everything else that comes from there. All right, great. I'm gonna wrap it there. We got through literally 1/3 or less of the questions that I had, but it was because we had great answers. I'm really grateful for everybody's time today. If there's one thing to take away, it's that you know, it's not one thing you can buy. In fact, you almost never heard us talk about any sort of product that you could buy, or a thing that you could get from a vendor. It's that the culture is really everything, and it can be free, it can be really cheap to do it. It just takes the effort, takes the time. You need to protect that at all costs, and if you've registered and you want the recording, then it is on its way. But thanks so much to everyone. Take care. Please do scan those QR codes there, and you will be able to get those resources. If you want to speak to us about anything that we do, then scan the one on the right. Really grateful for your time today, and I'll let you get on with your day. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye.